learn. So it's vibrant and an exciting place where you want to teach and learn, encouraging working together, listening patiently to each other, giving positive, constructive feedback, respecting and giving opportunities for the learners' voices to be heard and, importantly, acted on, where there's mutual respect for everyone, where learners are curious, creative, and imaginative, and encouraged to think out of the box. Children are involved in experiential learning, where there are exciting activities for them to problem solve and use higher order thinking skills. They make characters to discuss and talk about different cultures, beliefs, current situations, and deal with diversity. And throughout the storyline, there are opportunities for learners to achieve success in as many different ways as possible. Learners are encouraged to have a can-do attitude and determination to succeed. When I talk about sustainability, I'm talking about Storyline's ability to teach about sustainable futures, but I'm also talking about Storyline itself being a sustainable approach. In the next few slides, I'll show you that. Right from the outset, it involves very young learners and immediately begins to foster a positive partnership because it asks them what they already know. It nurtures the whole child because it encourages them to speak about the things that are important to them and what they think. Storyline facilitates interactions with children so easily and naturally and recognises the importance of getting to know the whole child. Storyline is an approach where learners use all 5 senses, as well as social and emotional intelligence, so that holistic education in its widest sense takes place. It is a sustainable approach where children are included at every stage of the learning and teaching. They contribute, they offer ideas, they create wonderful learning environments for themselves and others to enjoy learning. And they are catalysts of change and sustainability. The storyline's strengths, the works of Vygotsky, Brunner, Verstein, have all influenced the person-centred approach of storyline. If the curriculum changes, this storyline approach has a structure that adapts, changes, and facilitates any new content and works together well with other approaches. Its flexibility can ensure the skills emphasis that is required to meet the needs of the learner and the curriculum. Here's an example. I was commissioned by Forestry and Land Scotland to write this storyline to help teachers deliver the curriculum. Sometimes there are fantastic resources available, but teachers are so busy they don't have time to adapt them to make them into accessible teaching resources. I've included a direct link at the foot of this so that you can follow this wonderful resource. And I saw this storyline as an opportunity to bring cross-curricular learning into a subject-based curriculum, and at the same time focus on how ecosystems change through time and address global goals for sustainability. I'm now going to show you a couple of storylines that provide opportunities for learners to become engaged with sustainability and the role that they and others can play. And the first one is about recreating the wildwoods of Scotland. Trees for Life designed a project in the Highlands of Scotland, where I worked with Sally Harkness and Joyce Gilbert to write a storyline that involved local children taking a closer look at the impact rewilding could have on their local environment. The children looked at the relocation of the native red squirrels into habitats that had been destroyed by forestry, as well as growing more trees. There was even a discussion about reintroducing the wolves. Learners are having to confront real-life challenges in their local environment. As you can imagine, the children had very mixed views about whether wolves should be introduced. So the children themselves organised a debate. Some children live on farms and gave opinions from their perspective. Others thought there were too many deer and they were destroying the natural landscape and habitat for other animals. The wolves could help reduce the number of deer to let the newly planted trees become established. The children were completely involved. They spoke confidently and expressed their ideas because it was something that was important to them. In recognising the value from learning from the outdoors, Scottish education has now included outdoor learning in the curriculum as something that every learner should have access to. This means that there will be many more outdoor learning opportunities for many more children to experience. In our local native woodland storyline, the children are exploring their woodland to identify and find out more about it. For example, the species that currently exist, their numbers, the health of the trees. They're also exploring the surrounding habitat to find out what other animals live there. When I taught in a rural school, the children were asked to make a poster and leaflet for the Tourist Information Office to let visitors know what they could expect to find in our local area. The children were delighted and proud that they had made something beautiful and useful, that they had contributed with their knowledge and learning about their local environment. These examples are talking about sustainability in the landscape or the natural world. Here's a look at sustainability in an urban environment. I first wrote the Green Tour Company storyline and delivered it at Eva's school, Backatorpsskolan in Sweden. I then delivered a slightly different version of it in January this year to a school in Liverpool in the north of England, where the storyline was adapted and tailored to the different surroundings, background, experiences in a predominantly deprived catchment area. It's a very flexible storyline and involved the learners in exploring their local area and town. And they make tours to meet different needs of the families who visit there. See here with their biographies. The emphasis is on sustainable tourism. This is another example of the power of storyline, providing meaningful and purposeful context for learning. The learners had a purpose to make tours because they'd had requests from these families who wanted to visit there. The tours had to be designed for specific needs and interests. In designing the tours, they had to bear in mind the emphasis was on sustainable tourism. So they had to research in detail the different sustainable forms of transport that were available. As well as promoting sustainability, the storyline approach also embodies resilience. After the last 2 years, there's now a much greater urgency to build resilience for children, young people, and indeed for everyone. When I read this quote, I asked myself, what responses, changes would I have to make? For example, how does this affect what I'm currently doing and how am I responding? So here's what I'm doing. I'm now building resilience and hope into every storyline I write. In my workshops, I present an optimistic and hopeful way ahead for teachers and learners. I'm currently working with Leanne Stewart and Charlotte Bennett, two very enthusiastic, creative, and extremely talented colleagues, on a storyline project to present storyline workshops online to teachers from 14 schools, both primary and secondary, for 5 education councils in Scotland. A couple of weeks ago, I was in a Teams breakout room talking to the group of teachers, and one of them is a primary 2 class of 7-year-olds, and they are studying the Vikings. This is a very common topic, but her approach is quite different. She is focusing on the theme of resilience. And through her questions of how it must have felt for the Vikings to go on long sea voyages where they're in cramped conditions, can't visit friends and families, facing hardships and an uncertain future, she was able to relate to the children's experiences of the past 2 years. You can see here the storyline helps the children make comparisons with the conditions they have had to face during COVID and in particular lockdown, and the resilience that they have shown. It shows the real skill, creativity and imagination of the teacher to make this a meaningful and purposeful context for the children's learning. They're able to talk and discuss from their own experience, express their feelings, and appreciate the resilience they have shown. It's a great start for these young children as they go on to face other life challenges, and they are already developing the skills they will need on their journey. So after having had this conversation with the teacher of the 7-year-olds, I asked myself, what are the skills and qualities associated with resilience? And this is what I've come up with. Building confidence where learners can voice their opinion in an informed and confident manner. Taking small steps and an encouraging can-do attitude. Using the flexibility that the storyline gives us to meet learners' needs. Activities and situations to give opportunities for learners to take on individual and collective responsibility in a way that fosters mutual respect, not ever giving up, building determination, being able to express ideas and being a team player. And it's not just the involvement in problem-solving tasks, but being able to explain solutions that show knowledge and understanding. If someone is resilient, they know what they are capable of. And it occurred to me, but it really came as no surprise, how closely these ideas fitted with the storyline approach. This is what I said earlier. Look how closely they match. The figure on the left represents the things that I find important about storyline, the strengths of the storyline approach. So can we teach resilience? Yes, we can. These young learners are taking on the task of making a model from recycled materials. Because the storyline approach is based around a sequence of episodes, changing events, difficult challenges, and we work with learners to map a route through these, and on the way there is sharing of knowledge and expertise, teamwork, to tackle real life problems. The storyline approach teaches, rehearses, and embeds the skills that learners will need in later life to survive, thrive, and flourish. Resilience is a sum total of strategies learned by personal experience. To be resilient, learners need to be confident and have positive self-esteem. As part of our healthy living storyline, one of the children suggested we all have a personal best and that we celebrate children's achievements at a golden assembly. The Healthy Cafe was also taking place with another class. And during this storyline, a child who uses a wheelchair joined our school. The children asked their teacher sensitive questions about how the new child could safely gain access to the cafe. They also discussed if they should ask the child if he would be prepared to try out their ideas, how he might feel being asked some questions. As a result of their sensitive intervention and the new child's eager cooperation, they built a special ramp to accommodate his wheelchair. I think this is an excellent example of how during the process of learning in a storyline, learners had opportunities to build confidence, raise their self-esteem. They learned to manage sensitive situations and build their resilience. How do key questions build resilience? One of the most important features as part of the learning process in a storyline is the effective use of key questions, and these are instrumental in giving opportunities for learners to build their resilience. For example, learners are involved in experiential learning, and they're the experts of what they have made and therefore can answer questions confidently. Just by giving a little more time, wait time, gives learners opportunities to give fuller, more thoughtful responses. Asking learners their opinion reinforces positive self-esteem. They're encouraged to give mutual respect for all. Teaching learners and scaffolding how to give positive, constructive feedback gives them a framework. When you ask a learner to explain their problem-solving solution, you know if they have understood, or importantly, if they have misunderstood. It's important to ask the kind of questions that will promote higher order thinking skills and offer challenge. All of these build resilience. And you'll see in the next few slides an example of key questions in action and the way in which the teacher can reflect on their effectiveness in a storyline. The context is a problem-solving activity. The children are learning about electricity and incorporating their skills in a working model. And here are some of the key questions the teacher asks the children. This is part of a normal dialogue between teacher and pupil that allows the teacher to check the understanding and progress of the pupil through the task. This is just one short exchange between teacher and learners. But if we analyse it, however, question by question, we can identify what type of question it is. As we can see, the first question is open-ended. It allows for a wide range of answers. Then by simply asking why, the teacher is extending thinking by asking the learner for further details. The teacher then gives the learner an opportunity to expand an idea by asking them to talk about any problems they had. And getting the learner to say how they solved the problems introduces analytical thinking and the ability to reflect on what they have done. You can see these last two questions demand higher order thinking skills. When I was writing my book on questioning, I identified 16 types of question. And you can see here how even in this short exchange, the teacher is using a variety of questions. If the teacher then transfers this information to a chart like this, for example, they can begin to see at a glance the spread of questions. This shows an analysis of just 5 key question types. When a teacher has audited and is reflecting on the key questions used in the whole storyline, the chart might now look something like this. The teacher can see if a particular question type is over or underrepresented or missing entirely. This chart has the question types organised in loose hierarchy. As you can see, the column on the left, the questions at the bottom demanding higher order thinking skills. When reading it from left to right, it shows the spread of the questions throughout the whole storyline, and reading it vertically indicates the episodes that are suited to particular types of question. This is extremely helpful when reflecting on and evaluating the effectiveness of the whole storyline, as well as sharing information with colleagues and parents. Much of what I've been talking about has involved learners and teachers. Having recently delivered Storyline to student teachers and lecturers at Stirling University, I realise how important it is to include storyline approach and sustainability in core initial teacher education courses. And this is echoed by Beth Christie, Senior Lecturer for Sustainability and Outdoor Learning at Edinburgh University. And she states we must build capacity for new teachers in education for sustainable development. And this reinforces the importance of the need to be part of this for every initial teacher education course. And included in the recommended reading list should be this recently published storyline anthology, which focuses on the pedagogical approach of storyline. Paul Taylor McCartney is a creative writer as well as a teacher of English of drama, and he is fully aware of the transformative power of stories. He works as a senior lecturer in teacher education, but confessed he was largely ignorant of the Scottish storyline approach, and now feels that many of the case studies could be incorporated into the PGCE programmes. The anthology and now this Erasmus Plus project are providing evidence of the effectiveness of the storyline pedagogy. This online conference is just one part of the Erasmus Plus project initiative that takes the pedagogy of the storyline approach and examines it closely. The research findings will be of great interest to everyone. The quote here from UNESCO is thought-provoking and again reinforces the crucial role that storyline approach has to play in learning and teaching for now and our learners' future. One of the legacies of the Erasmus Plus project will be the most comprehensive bank of storyline resources ever assembled. Some of these are already appearing on the website, and having watched the storyline films from Sweden and Finland, I can thoroughly recommend them. So what you've seen today is how the storyline approach, because of its flexible structure and adaptability, can be used as a vehicle for teaching about sustainability and resilience. And that gives me hope. Big important things in the world have been accomplished by many people who did lots of little things. In the storylines we write, we can promote opportunities and activities that can build hope. Here's what Greta Thunberg says: once we start to act, hope is everywhere. Greta is now famous worldwide, but I'd like to introduce you to someone who isn't. My spirits were lifted when I watched this in our news programme a few weeks ago. I'm so proud to introduce you to Callum, aged 7. He visited the Scottish Parliament on the 9th of March 2022. He had walked the West Highland Way, a journey of 154 kilometres, to raise money to purchase reusable water bottles for every child in his own school. He then met with the First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon, to petition for every child in Scotland to have one of these bottles. He's the youngest person ever to present a petition to the Scottish Parliament, making history in Edinburgh. This young child certainly brings us a message of hope, and I'm sure there are many children like Callum that you know too. And here's another message of hope. There is always light, if only we are brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it. And I'd like to leave you with these few final words. Storyline is a sustainable approach that sustains us. It's a resilient approach, and it makes us resilient. And it gives us hope for the future. I'd like you to keep in touch, and here's how you can do that. Thank you for listening, and I wish you well on your storyline journey.
Wonderful, Carol. Thanks a lot for that. It was very clear and very nice to listen to. We are planting a tree for you as well, of course, in East Africa, and I hope it will grow strong like you. We are now going to go into the selectable session program, and in 10 minutes they will start. So what you all need to do now is to figure out where you want to be. And when you know where to go, the ones here in the room, you will actually go to a room, and they are all on the second floor, apart from room number 1, which is here where we are.